What is up, everybody? Alex from WMD here, back at you again. This time we're going to talk about compression. Specifically, we're going to talk about the muscle and using it on the master bus. So there are lots of videos of it doing this, but I've been getting some videos about, or I've been getting some emails and questions about the, like what I use, like the, like my recommended parameters for using compression. So I'm just going to go through that real quick on how to use it on the master, how I use it on the master, give an example of what's too much, how to check your mix against the bypassed version, and all of that. A lot of people ask me about sidechain when it comes to the compressor or the muscle, compression in general, but with the muscle, everybody asks about the sidechain input. Sidechain is really good when you want one instrument to duck from another, but when you're using it on the master, in my opinion, there's not really much reason to use the sidechain input because you want everything to be glued together. And if you're in dance music, your kick drum's probably going to be the loudest thing, and that's going to be a really nice clamping point already. So you're kind of going to get that sidechain effect. If your kick drum's not the loudest thing in the mix already, then you probably don't really want to sidechain the mix so everything goes away when the kick drum comes up, right? If you're having a hard time hearing the kick, you might want to change up your sequencing or your mixing a little bit, turn up the mix a little bit more, turn up the kick drum a little bit more, turn your bass down. That's like where I would start if you need to hear your kick more. This is about limiting, basically, just giving everything something like a top volume and pushing everything up just a tiny bit to try and just glue things together. So yeah, I'm just going to dive into it and yeah, follow along. So we're going to start with the drums. Just this 4 on the floor beat. We're going to take the compressor out. So we're just bypassing the compressor right now. And let's listen to these hi-hats, or sorry, not hi-hats, these chimeras, right? So these shaker sounds, really focus your ear on these, right? So the first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to show you like too much compression, and then we'll get into recommended parameters. So I'm going to flip this switch, the top limit switch, all the way to the left, and then we're going to keep the threshold all the way to the threshold switch. We're going to keep that all the way to the left. Now we'll turn the knob down, compression knob, attack, release. I like to keep them right around here. Gain, we want right in the middle. So now we're going to turn this compressor on with the switch and listen to what happens, really focusing on those chimera sounds as I turn the knob up. All right, so as you can hear and you can see right here, but you can really hear those chimeras coming out in between each kick. And what we're doing with this is you can see the red light means gain reduction. So that's when we're turning the volume down with the compressor. And the green means we're adding gain, right? So we're adding more gain here, which lets us hear these in between those sounds. So this is a very, very extreme example, but just wanted to show you of what that's going to sound like and what it's really doing. Now, what I would do for a master bus, I would take this switch, put it all the way to the right, and then the limit switch, and then I take the comp knob until we're just barely kissing in the red, maybe a little bit more. And then I like to leave attack as fast as it's going to go. That means it's going to turn down the transients of the kick drum. Anything that crosses that threshold, which right now, the kick drum's the loudest thing. Anything that gets louder than the kick drum, it's going to get turned down. And then the release, I think it sounds natural around noon. You can see if I turn it up longer, it takes longer for it to go away. And now you can hear the mix just sounds a little flatter. When I back that off, we just get a tiny bit of pumping. So again, when we switch over to this side, we get some pretty intense pumping. And on this side, we get a little bit more glue. All right, so let's hear it with the rest of the mix. Gonna start it over, right? Just so we know where we're at. So you can hear right here, I've got just basically, or you can see it, I've got gain reduction happening on the 4 on the floor. If I put this in the middle here, add a little bit more gain, we get a little bit more of that crunchy sound on the snares, and then a little bit more pumping in between. But I think over to the right, that's where I like it. I think it's really nice. It's subtle that way. One of the things about compression is you can just get, you know, too far in the weeds really quick. So let's make this mix a little bit busier. So when we take out the kick, we don't want it to get turned up too much either. We just want it to sound nice and flat. All right, so that's it. That is my suggested parameters on using the muscle. One of the things about compression is it's not something you're going to want to fidget with during your performance. You want to set it and forget it. You want it to sound good the whole time through. And what I like to do is just leave it on most of the time, even while I'm riding, while I'm doing everything. That way everything's getting pushed through that, and I'm hearing everything, you know, the way it's going to sound when it's compressed. I will frequently bypass it, hear what it sounds like, then turn it back on, just to make sure that I'm not doing too much or too little. But yeah, this, you know, compression isn't a module that you're going to be CV controlling. You're not going to be hitting it with a bunch of, you know, changing the knobs all the time. And that's another reason why the muscle's designed the way it is. It's 4 HP, it's stereo, it's great for a master bus, but it's not too big, doesn't have too many controls, because it really doesn't need them, especially for like this just like subtle gluing effect. If you're going to be using it for side chaining instruments or, you know, compressing individual instruments, then you might want to be adjusting it a little bit more during your set from song to song, you know, sound to sound, things like that. But for the most part, you know, you don't really need to be messing with the thing, and that's why it's so small. There are other compressors out there. You know, we used to have a bigger version, you know, a big mono compressor, fully featured. And there's lots of different compressors out there that have a lot more features. But, you know, when it comes to just like live performance, making something sound good, a lot of times those aren't that necessary. And they're going to be just like eating up space in your rig. So that's it. I hope it gives you some ideas. As always, please like and subscribe, and we will see you all next time. Peace.